Hi, and welcome to Earth Science Lab. I'm Mr. Novi, and today we're going to go over classroom safety. Today we're going to focus on what to do before lab, dress code, proper behavior, safe and correct use of equipment, potential injury risks, safe handling of lab material, correct ways to dispose of material waste, the dangers of gas and proper instructions, use and type of emergency equipment, and finally, proper instructions for leaving lab classroom. So, before lab. Prior to entering class, you will receive the lab activity. Make sure you read the lab instructions and guidelines prior to entering class. Make sure you read the safety guidelines and read all the important steps prior to starting the lab. This will keep you and your peers safe and on task during the lab activity. If you have any medical issues, handicaps, or allergies pertaining to this lab, please privately tell the teacher and we will create an alternative lab for you to complete. Remember, no food or drinks. Please do not bring any foods or drinks into the lab to help stop possibilities of spills. If you have food or drinks, please place them in the front of the classroom and refrain from eating or drinking during the lab activity. Keep personal belongings off the floor. Please place all your belongings not needed for the lab in front of the classroom. Make sure all the aisles are clear for easy and safe travel around the room to prevent tripping accidents. Next, we're going to talk about dress code. So dress code is dressing appropriately, and it is very important for lab safety. First, we're going to talk about shoes. In lab, you need to wear closed-toed shoes. These are shoes like sneakers or boots. Do not wear flip-flops or sandals. This is important because let's say someone drops a glass beaker and it breaks. Having closed-toed shoes will prevent cuts or other injuries, and when we start to work in the rocks part of the lab, you'll want to protect yourself from the rocks that can fall on the floor and cause foot injuries. No loose or baggy clothing either. When in the lab, refrain from wearing loose or baggy clothing, especially clothing like baggy sweatshirts or oversized long-sleeve t-shirts. This type of clothing can be hazardous when we start to work with the Bunsen burner. This clothing can also be prone to catching materials and cause them to fall and break, which can also lead to injury. For eye protection, in lab, when instructed, please wear safety glasses to protect your eyes from harmful materials or chemicals. Do not worry, you won't look goofy. We'll all be wearing them together. Additional safety protection, if instructed, make sure you wear protective gloves, lab coats, or ear protection to help from injuries on your hands, body, or ears. Lab behavior. It's very important to follow all lab behavior instructions to keep everyone safe in the lab environment. First, never work in lab without a teacher or adult present. Although you may feel comfortable doing a lab without a teacher or adult present, that is strictly prohibited, and adults must be present to ensure you and your peers are safe and it lowers the risks of injury. Please, no horseplay, pranks, or practical jokes. We will be working with dangerous materials, chemicals, so it is very important to behave in a mature and professional manner to avoid risk of injuring yourself or your peers. Please always listen to teachers or adults' instructions. Listen to every instruction you get from a teacher or an adult. This is to keep you and your peers safe while working with dangerous materials and chemicals. Next, we're going to move on to proper use of equipment. It is very important to maintain a safe lab environment, and this starts with the proper use of equipment. So pay attention during demonstrations. To make sure you understand how to operate new equipment safely and correctly, get the best results, please pay careful attention to whatever is being demonstrated by the teacher. Always report broken equipment. The first thing everyone should do when getting equipment is to inspect it to make sure that it is properly working. If you have any broken piece of equipment, do not use it and report it immediately to a teacher or an appropriate adult, and we will get you a replacement. Follow lab settings. This is very important not only for your safety, but also to make sure that it gets the proper results for your lab activity. Following the proper lab settings for equipment will also ensure the life of the equipment, helping it last for years and avoiding unnecessary breakage. Only use the equipment for its intended purpose. This means do not use a hot Bunsen burner as a paperweight or scratch things with rocks, other than glass plates or scratch plates. This goes along with no horseplay in the classroom. Next, we will talk about possible injury risks found in our lab class. So injury risk, depending on the activity, there can be a high risk for injury in Earth Science Lab, especially when inappropriately using equipment or not taking safety seriously. We must follow all instructions to keep ourselves and others safe. So we're going to talk about glassware. Glassware can be broken, and if it does break, please tell a teacher or adult that it has broken before trying to clean up anything. Then follow their instructions on safely cleaning and disposing of the glass. Do not clean up without the use of gloves to avoid cuts, and do not avoid telling a teacher or an adult that the glass has broken. For fire, fire is very dangerous when used improperly. So we will be using Bunsen burners in lab, and this involves an open flame. Never leave these open flames unattended. We will also be using hot plates, and never put anything flammable on these hot plates. For chemicals, we will be using hydrochloric acid when working with rocks and minerals. This is a relatively harmless acid, but it can get into your eyes and on the skin and it can cause irritation. Please follow all directions when using acid and report any defective bottles to a teacher or an adult. When done using these acids, please wash your hands with soap and water to prevent irritation. Next, we're going to talk about handling of lab material. This should be done as instructed to keep yourself and your peers and the materials safe. We're going to talk about rocks. When handling rocks, be sure to watch out for sharp edges that can cause cuts to you or your classmates. If you find a sharp rock, please report it to a teacher or adult and we will get you a safer sample. Avoid trying to pick up large or heavy rock to examine. If needed, please take your lab questions and instructions to the rock and examine it rather than bringing the rock to you to prevent injuries of accidental dropping. Always be aware of rocks on the floor, also, to avoid tripping hazards and injuries. For glassware, when handling glassware, please have 2 hands on the glassware at all times. One hand stabilizing the glassware around the neck and the other hand cradling the bottom. This will avoid picking up glassware that has been heated. Either use a special heat-resistant glove or wait until the glassware has cooled down. Inform all other students when glassware is potentially hot to avoid accidental burns. For hot plates and Bunsen burners, when handling a hot plate or Bunsen burner, make sure you let them cool down before putting them away to avoid burning yourself or peers. This practice will also prevent fires. Please inform all classmates when a hot plate or Bunsen burner is still hot. If either is hot by the end of the period and you need to start putting things away and to leave, avoid putting it away and tell a teacher or an adult that it is still hot and they will put it off to the side, let it cool, and put it away for you. Acids. When using acids, please always read the label first, ensuring that you have the correct acid to be used, and inspect the bottle for leaks and report malfunctioning bottles to a teacher or an adult. Try to avoid contact with skin or eyes to avoid irritation. If exposed to acid, please wash your hands immediately and do not touch any other students. If it gets into your eyes, immediately wash your eyes out in the eye wash station. Once done, tell a teacher or an adult and go to the nurse for further assistance. For allergies, if you know of any potential allergies of a material that we will be using, please inform a teacher and we will create an alternative lab activity for you to protect your safety. If we work in the field, make sure you respect the habitat. This means do not disturb any living organism's habitat by breaking tree limbs, pulling up grass, or touching living animals. Do not remove any living creatures from its habitat, and once back at the classroom, make sure you wash your hands with soap and water and check for any ticks or insects. If any are found, please inform a teacher or an adult, and we will get you further assistance. Next, we'll talk about material waste. Material waste can be dangerous when it's not disposed of correctly. Please always read the waste directions, and if there is any confusion, ask a teacher or adult for help or instructions. For broken glassware, if disposed incorrectly, can cause injury to the people that are unaware of the broken glass in the trash. So if glass is broken, please tell a teacher or an adult, and we will put the glass in a special waste bin to keep everyone protected and to avoid possible injuries. Sand or sediment. We will be using sand or sediment in this lab, and it can cause issues if dumped in incorrect disposal areas like the sink. Never dump solids down the sink. It can cause plumbing backups and issues in the future. Please always dispose these wastes in the proper bins or collection containers found in the fume hood to help keep the dust to a minimum for your breathing safety. Always wash your hands with soap and water to get rid of the risk of the sediment on your hands too. Acid. If you need to dispose of acid, please tell a teacher or an adult you need to dispose of it, and they will dilute it to a safe concentration. Never pour acid down the drain or into a sink, no matter what. Always wash your hands with soap and water after using acids as well. Next, we're going to talk about gas usage. Gas usage will happen during our lab period. The gas we'll be using will be propane, and our gas usage will be limited to just Bunsen burners. Please do not turn on the gas unless instructed to. This gas is very flammable and if not used properly, can cause fire or explosions. All students need to read instructions on how to set up a Bunsen burner. Do not turn the gas on until you get permission from a teacher or adult after they have checked to make sure your Bunsen burner has been assembled properly. Gas shutoff. All students need to be aware of the emergency gas shutoff and where it is. This is typically a big red button that is labeled gas shutoff. If fire gets out of hand or an open flame is unintended, please press the emergency shutoff button for everyone's safety. This button will cut off all the gas to the room. If you smell, you tell. Our lab will always have access to gas. If any student smells gas, please report it to a teacher or an adult immediately. The only gas we have is propane, but propane has a very distinct odor. It will smell like rotten eggs, skunk spray, or a deceased animal. If you smell it, you tell us. Next, we're going to talk about emergency equipment. So emergency equipment will be found all around the room for our safety. First, we're going to talk about fire extinguishers. A fire extinguisher is used to put out fire anywhere in the room. In case of use, remember the acronym PASS for proper extinguishing skills. The P in PASS stands for pull the pin. A stands for aim at the base of the fire. The first S stands for squeeze the lever, and the last S stands for sweep side to side. Just like the fire extinguisher, we will have access to a fire blanket. A fire blanket is used to put out a fire, except the blanket is intended for use on individuals that have caught on fire. If a student catches on fire, remove the blanket from its container, place it on the individual, and tell them to stop, drop, and roll inside the fire blanket to help extinguish the fire. Eye wash stations. These are used in case of a chemical gets into your eyes. If you get a chemical in your eye, please go to the station and place your eyes above the eye wash station. Once the water starts flowing, make sure you keep your eyes open the whole time to allow the water to flush out the chemicals. This will also work if you get a sediment stuck in your eyes when we work with rocks and minerals. We will also have a first aid case in our classroom in case of small cuts or scratches that may occur during lab. If you get cut at all, please tell a teacher or an adult, and we'll help to determine if you need to go to the nurse or if the first aid kit will work. Never let a cut go untreated, and never don't tell a teacher you got cut. Next, we're going to talk about leaving lab. It is very important for everyone to follow proper instructions for putting everything away for your safety and the safety of the next class. First things first, let it cool. If we are using equipment that requires heat, be sure to let it cool down before putting it away to stop the risk of fire. Handling this hot equipment can also cause burns to yourself or your peers. If this equipment is still hot at the end of the lab and you need to leave, please tell a teacher or adult, and we will put the equipment to the side to let it cool and be put away when it is safe. Follow correct instructions for putting equipment away. Make sure everyone puts equipment away where it belongs. Do not put it in a random spot. Never put anything in a cabinet that is not stable. That way, no one will open it and the material will fall out and cause them to get hurt. This will also ensure the life of the equipment for all the students to come. Wipe down your table and clean out your beakers. Never leave a mess at your table. Other students could possibly be allergic to materials that you were just using. To maintain the safety of all students, please wipe the table down with soap and water to get rid of all excess materials that might have collected on the tables. After cleaning the tables, please dry them with a paper towel. Now, please look at this photo of the class. Circle and discuss with a partner the safety issues found, and please write an explanation of why the issues you circled on this picture are issues. You can do this on a separate sheet of paper. Now please answer the following true or false questions. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy our lab period.